Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, around the Motor City Madmouth, and across I-75 out in the Fort Myers area is Steve Balestrieri. It wasn't always that way until he moved back down from the New England area. And welcome back, Steve.
Well, thanks for having me. As always, it's always my one of my highlights of the week is I get to talk some football with you. And last week we kind of, went in a different direction. We did some Veterans Day stuff, which is, of course, near and dear to my heart. But hey, it's football time once again, and I always look forward to it. So let's kick it off, man.
We will, man. We're going to go lots of different directions. Since I've had you on the broadcast a few times, you got me intrigued about the veterans and things like that. So we could go in a lot of different directions. We'll just have to figure out what the flavor of the day as we do these broadcasts. So keep our listeners and our viewers on their toes a little bit, wondering what is Scott and Steve going to put together today in Candy when she's available. I don't know, but before we even get into the football games, I got to tell you, I have a little taste of New England on Friday night when Candy, Emily, and I covered the Florida Atlantic University Owls against the University of Massachusetts, I think the Minutemen, right?
That is correct.
My goodness. UMass goes into this game was 0-2. Florida Atlantic, believe it or not, is 4-1, despite all their COVID-19 issues with games dropping like flies. So can't put Florida Atlantic University in the same sentence as the Miami Marlins, but I got news for you. A couple of interesting COVID storylines here in South Florida, beginning with the Marlins and FAU, and they're actually not looking that bad, but that'll be something I have to look forward to on Friday night before I make the trek up to Metro Detroit to be with my family. So, but that'll be all right. Looking forward to going to that game. Nothing like a nice press box just to hang out, watch, and work. I'm tired of being on the air with a microphone in front of my grill. It's good stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, does it get any better than being up in the press box for a football game? I don't know. I don't think so.
For me, it isn't. I don't care if it's a college game or a pro game. It's pro game. I still love being in a box. The only thing that might be a struggle would be the high school press boxes. But then again, if I were in Texas, I probably might be eating my words because I hear that everything when it comes to high school stadiums in Texas is pretty good. But otherwise, everywhere else, not so much. College, pros, very much. All right. With that said, let's talk some pro football, Mr. Balestrieri. And we're going to talk about Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees is out. I'll tell you, has some cracked ribs, collapsed lung. That hurts.
He has cracked ribs on each side of his chest as well. So I've had one cracked rib before. I got it when I was playing hockey. And I'm here to tell you, just one is extremely painful when you take a deep breath. And the worst thing of all with cracked ribs is, believe it or not, sneezing. That is more pain than anything. So Drew Brees is going to be hurting for a while, especially with the collapsed lung. I don't know. I mean, that's an injury that might keep him out for a while. I guess it depends on how severe it is, but they're going to have to fit him with some kind of a flak jacket for when he comes back. But that's potentially a big loss for them. We'll have to see how everything works out.
Well, the early reports on Brees is going to be out at least 2 games. So, you never know with Drew Brees how quickly he's going to heal and what they're able to do with modern medicine. Okay, but that's what it is. But meanwhile, let's move on to from Drew Brees to Jameis Winston. This is the opportunity that Mr. Winston's looking for. He took less money to go to New Orleans. And, you have to wonder with Drew Brees headed to the broadcast booth within the next year or two, this is a good opportunity for Jameis Winston to audition for this job in New Orleans to be the permanent guy. And I think if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and you see Jameis Winston beating you down the road, that isn't anything to laugh about. But how do you think Jameis Winston's going to respond?
Well, that's a great question. And now that he's with Sean Payton, I'm wondering if some of the bad decisions that plagued him. I mean, you look back his time with Tampa, he was throwing for a lot of yardage, but he was also turning the ball over. at an incredibly high rate. And I'm wondering if, working with Sean Payton, if they can work some of those issues out with him, because, you know, in today's NFL, as you well know, you turn the ball over a couple of times a game, you're not going to win those games. And that's what happened with him in Tampa Bay. And I'm not so convinced that after this short amount of time, you know, working with Peyton, that everything's going to be quite as rosy as they would like it to be. But we're seeing crazier things happen, so we'll have to see how it plays out. But yeah, if I'm New Orleans, I tried to keep our game plan a little conservative, make the throws a little bit easier for them, and, you know, rely on, obviously, our running back, Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, no question about that, Steve. You have Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, very good wide receivers. But Alvin Kamara, in my opinion, is the X factor. I don't care what anybody says. You want to throw the football and get 5-10 yards a shot, you're going to ultimately get down there. I know everybody's talking about that long vertical passing game, which looks great when it comes to, you know, how it looks in the highlight reel. But to me, I'll take those dink and dunk passes all day long if they're high percentage passes and you're still gaining yards and moving the football. Everybody gets so intrigued about the bomb. Forget the bomb. Just don't turn over the ball.
That's it. Well, you know, and the thing we heard in New England every year for the past 20 years, well, except for a very short time that they had Randy Moss, the Patriots don't have a deep threat. How are they going to win the Super Bowl without a deep threat? Well, they won 6 without a deep threat.
Right.
So, you know, it's all about maximizing your opportunities and using the people that are around you. And he has some really good weapons there. They don't have to air it out on every down.
Right.
You know, and with a guy like Thomas, those 5 and 10 yard passes can quickly turn into 20 and 25 and 30 yard, you know, yards after the catch. So,
right.
You know, it's all about protecting the football and being a little conservative, at least at the start for Winston, and we'll see how it works out for him.
Well, you hit the key word, Steve, yards after the catch. If you're a good receiver, you catch a 10, 15-yarder, and you get your yards after the catch. And you know what it all, in the box score, you know what it looks like if you have a 10-yard catch and 40 yards after the catch, it's still a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
Through it long or short.
Exactly.
And then when you look at Alvin Kamara, you ought to know James White pretty well. You can utilize a pretty good mobile running back and get some good mileage out of him. And I think Alvin Kamara obviously is a heck of a back, and you got a good steady diet of James White. So let's talk about those long catches. And here we go to the Hail Mary, which the Buffalo Bills were saying hail no, but it turned out hail yes. Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins. Where did he throw it? Deep. That was a catchphrase from an old mentor anchor of mine. Where did he hit it? Deep. Where did he throw it? Deep. That's my episode of the deep. Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins. And your thoughts about that play?
Wow. I mean, you know, it was funny because when Buffalo scored, you know, it seemed like, okay, they pulled out another really close win, and, you know, the Bills are on a roll. And then that play, you know, Kyler Murray was flushed out, and he's running to his left, and then he airs the ball out. He threw it farther than I thought he was going to be able to. And then, I mean, Hopkins is in the middle of 3 defenders. And, boy, you have to, I mean, you tip your hat to Hopkins at the same time, because what a tremendous catch and what great hands he has. But if you're Buffalo's defensive coordinator, I mean, you have 3 guys there and not one of them can knock the ball down or knock the ball out of his hand. You know, I don't know. It was just a tremendous play. Of course, I'm sure they're not saying that too much in Buffalo right now, but that was just one of those signature plays that I would think the odds of him completing that pass of probably less than 2%, but somehow they made it happen. What great hands Hopkins has, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, so what does Bill O'Brien think? And of course, I don't think he'll ever see a coaching job anyway. So,
Yeah, I, we've talked about this on this show quite a few times. What the heck was he thinking trading Hopkins? I still don't get that one. That's the head scratcher of the year for me. Excuse me.
I say it's a head scratcher the last 5 years for me. Why did you do this, Bill? Were you looking to get an early retirement or pink slip? Because you certainly got it by making that move. You can let a marquee player go, and now Deshaun Watson is a sitting duck back there in Houston with, to me, the likes of Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, and obviously we know the Houston Texans being what they are. But what can I tell you?
Yeah, I mean they have a very talented passing core, even without Hopkins. But I mean, just think about how good they would be with him. And a lot of their struggles this year have been defensively because Hopkins has put up nice numbers. They've put points on the board.
Right.
Defensively, they've struggled really bad. But you think back, they've had a lot of close losses. So, if your defense is really bad, but you can outscore them, maybe your record isn't quite as bad as 2-7 right now. And I would tend to think if they had Hopkins on that team, they might have outscored a couple of those teams that they lost to in some of those close games.
Well, they had Hopkins. I say they're 5-4, not 2-7. That's how big of a difference this guy makes. But oh well.
I would agree with that.
DeAndre Hopkins to me though, and how much they got. I can only imagine what jersey sales are like with DeAndre Hopkins. We talk about all the money being lost in a pandemic, but you know what, Steve? Not in Arizona. Not if you're looking to go ahead and buy merchandise sales and that guy named DeAndre Hopkins. They're selling with Kyler Murray, but I wouldn't be surprised if it hasn't already happened that DeAndre Hopkins is out selling Murray, and I'm sure Murray doesn't care. Just catch my footballs and doesn't make it.
I don't think he minds when he throws up a pass like that and watches his guy come down with it. I think he'll go out and buy a new jersey too.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Yeah, we'll go ahead. With 3 guys on him, and he still hauls that thing down. It's just remarkable. And and the Buffalo Bills are a pretty good team. So I think they're not going to let that loss get the best of them. I mean, it was a play where I was at a game on my wife's birthday a few years ago, and Aaron Rodgers threw a Hail Mary and ended up beating the Lions on Thursday Night Football. It was in prime time, and
I remember that one.
I do too. I mean, my mother-in-law died a few weeks prior, and my wife ended up going to the game and watching it. And I was telling my colleague George Eichhorn, he thought the game was over. I hate to tell you this, I see some crazy things happen, and indeed it did.
Yeah, I remember that one well because I was watching that Thursday night game, and I was thinking, this one's over. I'm not turning this one off just yet. I'm going to stay up because we've seen this film before. And, unfortunately for the Lions that night, Rodgers completed that one. So that was another one of those, what you consider very, very low percentage passes.
Yeah, but one of the things that happened, though, with that Lions penalty that led up to that untimed down.
Yeah.
You talk about shooting yourself in the foot. That's exactly what Detroit did to give Aaron Rodgers that opportunity to pull it out later on. So, but since we're on the subject of talking Hail Marys, I don't mind mentioning that one, even though it does pain me to some extent. And, of course, what Kyler Murray did to break the hearts of the Buffalo Bills. All right. Well, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're undefeated, and they're going to play the Jacksonville Jaguars, a 9-0 team against a 1-8. I didn't even put this thing down on our games we're going to predict, but it should be pretty interesting to note that Mike Tomlin, in my opinion, would be a big candidate for Coach of the Year, although my gut feeling is if Brian Flores keeps playing, coaching the way he is, he'd probably get it first. But let's talk about Pittsburgh Steelers being undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Steelers, they've been getting better every week. They're undefeated, and now they're going to go to Jacksonville. And I can't see the Jaguars beating the Steelers this week, especially the way the Steelers defense has been playing, the way they get after the quarterback. I see them going 10-0. But I do agree with you on the same point that I think Mike Tomlin's being talked about a lot as coach of the year right now, and I would imagine he's going to get that. But like you said, the way the Dolphins are sneaking up now, and they're playing some really good football right now. I think they've won, was it 5 in a row? You
Yeah.
know, and Tua's rounding into form. He's looking like the guy they wanted to draft. Excuse me. That defense is really stepping up, and you're looking at this team overall. They're playing really solid football right now. Everyone's kind of penciling in the Bills as the AFC East champions. I wouldn't just tune out the Dolphins just yet. I think Miami has a chance to make some noise there. The way they're playing right now, I wouldn't want to play them in South Beach right now.
Oh, no, I'm sure. Well, back to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a moment. You know, obviously they're 9-0. They could be 10-0. Again, how does Mike Tomlin do it? Of course, it doesn't hurt to have a Ben Roethlisberger, who's probably, I think, is the oldest quarterback to ever start a year undefeated at 9-0. So more power to Ben. You talk about Ben Roethlisberger, like fine wine. The older you get, the better you are. I think that it certainly describes what Ben is doing. That's for sure. He's definitely, I believe, a future Hall of Fame quarterback for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but meanwhile, let's talk about the Jaguars for just a moment. Got to tell you though, they gave the Green Bay Packers a game up at Lambeau, losing by just 4 points, 24-20. So
they did, and they had the opportunity there at the end. They had the ball around midfield, and they fell short. But going into that game, I thought that was going to be being at Lambeau. I figured it would have been over by halftime, and it would have been an absolute blowout. But the Jaguars played the Packers tough. They made them earn it. And I'm sure they're not going to lay down against the Steelers. I just don't think that's a really good matchup for them this week.
Yeah, well, they won't. I mean, they're playing at home, so, they'll do what they've got to do. But I don't give them – I think Pittsburgh will, without doubt, improve to 10-0. But Doug Marrone is looking at his last year. I know he'll be – let go at the end of the year. That's just my gut feeling. So, all right. So now to a team you're all too familiar with, the New England Patriots upsetting the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore now is 3 games back of the division with the Steelers. But what are your thoughts about the way that Cam Newton played?
I thought Cam Newton was outstanding on Sunday night. The Patriots came in, they were going to try to run the football. And the weather conditions, as you saw up there, were pretty terrible. The rain was coming down harder and harder as the game went on. The wind was really blowing there. But, the Patriots came in wanting to run the football. The Ravens knew this. And they were trying to stack the box, and they were trying to blitz Cam Newton. That's been an area where he struggled a lot this year, and that's been the big thing. I've said all along for the past 4 or 5 weeks, if I'm the opposition, I blitz Newton on nearly every down, and then I try to take away his check down guy because he hasn't been recognizing the blitz as quick as he should and all that. But against the blitz on Sunday night, against a really good Ravens defense, he was 9 of 12 for over 100 yards with a touchdown. So I thought he made some great strides there. The Ravens missed a golden opportunity to stick close to the Steelers. Now they're 3 games back in the division. You can kind of write that one off for them right now. I mean, I know there's still a long way to go, but with 3 games to make up, and the Steelers right now have the tiebreaker because they beat them head-to-head, I think right now the Ravens lost a really good opportunity to stay close to them. I think the division is kind of out of the realm for them right now, unless something really bad happens to Ben Roethlisberger.
Well, Ravens' only chance to get in the playoffs is through the wild card. I mean, Lamar Jackson's a little upset with how things are going. He's a heck of a quarterback, but you know what? They've had their opportunities too. So on offense? Lamar Jackson performed as much as most people thought? I don't know, but give the Pittsburgh Steelers their due. They're playing well, and I don't know, for some reason I don't think the Ravens are gonna go too deep in the playoffs should they get there for sure. So all right, let's go on to a team I'm all too familiar with. The Detroit Lions nearly gave another game away, and if it weren't for a 59-yard field goal from Matt Prater as time expired, the Lions will have coughed up yet another digit lead. That does not look good for Matt Patricia. 4-5, yes, but yet the way that defense plays, the more they give up opportunities. Gosh, I can't believe that they should have blown out Washington. They really should have. And the fact that they gave them a chance to get back in the game is pretty bad.
Yeah, I was watching the back and forth on the red zone with the game, and I was thinking, well, the Lions have this one well in hand. But then I started thinking, well, we've seen this before with that defense. And, as the game was winding down, I kept seeing the score get a little closer. And then, the Redskins tied it up with it was under a minute to go, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Matt Patricia needs to give this week's salary to, his quarterback, Matthew Stafford, because he pulled that one out. And with very little time, he got them in position. What a great kick by Matt Prater, though. I mean, talk about a money kick. 59-yarder is no joke. We see a lot of these guys make 50-yarders and we'll say, oh, wow, that would have been good from 60. But it's a little different when you're looking at it from 60 yards. Those goalposts start getting really tight when you're looking at it from that distance. That was a great kick. And, he might have saved Matt's bacon until at least the end of the season.
Yeah, well, I keep telling you, Matt Prater is our version of Gus, the kicking mule.
That's it.
I had to throw that in there. You left me wide open for that.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, let's talk about this week's games. Arizona Cardinals, 6 up, 3 down. Seattle Seahawks, 6 up, 3 down. This one's being played out in the Pacific Northwest. What you got there?
Yeah, the Seahawks are really struggling right now. And Russell Wilson has turned the ball over a ton the last couple of games. Very uncharacteristic for him. I like Arizona right now. They're riding that high after that big win. They're playing good football. They have DeAndre Hopkins. Imagine that. And against that Seattle defense, I think he's going to have a monster game this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll ride the Arizona Cardinals as well. I mean, it's hard to bet against DeAndre Hopkins, and they have other weapons there. But Kyler Murray, I still love watching this guy play. The only thing he needs to do is make sure when he's running the ball, he needs to keep the ball protected instead of wide open so somebody can knock it out of his hand. But
he looks like he's carrying that loaf of bread from the bakery in Seinfeld.
That's exactly what it looks like. Great analogy. I love that analogy. That's what it looks like. All right, well, let's talk about the Lions. This time they're going to Carolina. 2 banged-up quarterbacks, Teddy Bridgewater, Matt Stafford. Stafford's dealing with thumb issues. But the X factor is the fact that Christian McCaffrey is going to miss this football game. I tell you, talk about getting a contract for a running back and then the wear and tear afterwards. How do those usually work out? I'm going to give the Lions the nod anyways. The Lions going to the game 4-5, Panthers 3-7.
Yeah, once again, I was watching the game last week. I thought Teddy Bridgewater played pretty well against Tampa Bay. But, they really missed Christian McCaffrey. We saw how close they came to pulling out that game with him against Kansas City. And he's just one of those kind of guys that makes your roster look so much better when he's in the game. I think I'm going to, as much as I hate to say it, I'm going to go with the Lions in this one because we know how their defense fades in the fourth quarter. But, yeah, I think Matt Stafford might have a big game, bad thumb and all.
Yeah, if McCaffrey's playing, I go with the Panthers. If he's not playing, then you go with the Lions. That's my logic behind the whole thing. All right, one of the more interesting matchups this weekend is what we call the AARP battle. And you're saying, what the heck is this guy talking about, the AARP battle? Well, you took your nap, had to wake you up, so now you got to wonder, what is the AARP battle? Well, enter Aaron Rodgers and enter Phillip Rivers, and then you have the AARP battle, NFL style. Packers 7-2, don't go down to Indianapolis 6-3 indoors. Who do you have?
Yeah, this is a really, really great matchup. That Indy defense is no joke. I think they're playing really well. Phillip Rivers has been playing well lately. I just have the feeling that Aaron Rodgers is going to get the better of him in this one. So that AARP card and, the Rodgers rate, I guess, is that the new commercial, the Rodgers rate or the Mahomes rate? I think he's going to get the good rate this week. I like the Packers to pull this one out.
Yeah, me too. I'll go with the Packers all the way. I think the Packers, what they need to do their best way to get to the Super Bowl is make sure all roads lead through Lambeau.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can keep winning and end up with the best record in the NFC. Then I'd pity anybody that's going to go to Green Bay during.
And obviously, if they have the best record, then their first playoff game will be against the winner of the NFC East. So.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of like extra bye week.
Yeah, right. Good point, Steve. Yeah, that's for sure. But all roads need to lead through Lambeau where it gets cold. So I'll give the Packers a win indoors against Indianapolis. All right, Tennessee against Baltimore. No, I know. I'm wearing a Tennessee hat with a microphone that I picked up over Memorial Day weekend. But does that mean that's my pick? No. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to go with Baltimore. Baltimore can't afford to get any further behind Pittsburgh than they are, especially knowing that they're going to play Pittsburgh a week later. We'll get to that in a few minutes. So I'm going to go with Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson gets it together, and the game obviously being played in Baltimore. What about you?
Yeah, I like the Ravens to come back this week. I think this will be another really tough, hard-fought game, just like we saw last Sunday night. There'll be a lot of, yards on the ground there, but I just have the feeling that Jackson's going to find some of his targets for touchdowns this week. He completed passes last week, but when they got close, they got stopped a couple of times, and plus the weather had an issue in a couple of those drives. So, I like Tennessee as well, but I just have the feeling that Baltimore is going to win a really close, tough-fought game this week. I look for Jackson to have a really big game throwing the football as well as running.
At some point, the Baltimore Ravens need to get a little bit of mileage out of Mark Ingram. They really do.
Yeah, he didn't look 100% healthy last week. I know he was coming back, and that was his first game back, but he did not look like himself in that game.
He needs to look like himself in this game if Baltimore is going to beat the Titans. And you talk about a marquee matchup potentially with running backs. Got Derrick Henry against Mark Ingram. So outside of the Tannehill versus
Jackson, yeah.
Yeah, so some interesting matchups. All right, you're drinking the Miami Dolphins Kool-Aid, and you're going to be doing it up in the Mile High City. So, I want to go back to the Tennessee-Baltimore game, though. You have two teams that with identical 6-3 records. So
tough game.
Yeah,
tough
it certainly is. Now,
somebody sent me a tweet, and I don't know if it was true or not. I haven't actually looked it up, but Sunday night was the first regular season game in Lamar Jackson's career where the Ravens scored under 20 points.
Really? Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked that up yet. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm throwing it out there on the air right now. But if that is true, that's very interesting. because, this is a team that moves the ball really well on the ground. And when they do, it opens up so much for them in their passing game.
Well, I mean, one thing that Ryan Tannehill lacked in Miami, besides good coaching, was a running back, and he has it in Derrick Henry. So anytime you can take the pressure off your quarterback, by having a good, strong running game, then it certainly allows you to find your targets, open up the passing game. So I almost feel like I sound like a coach there. I don't know, but that's okay. All right, Miami against Denver. Brian Flores. Mike Tomlin doesn't get the coach of the year. Brian Flores very well could. Dolphins are 6-3. Denver with a 3-6. So identical 6-3 records. Well, kind of 6-3 versus 3-6.
I like Miami in this one. As I said earlier, I'm drinking that Miami Kool-Aid. I have always liked Brian Flores. You and I have talked about this on this show several times. I like what he's doing down there in Miami. The players are all bought in. They're playing really good football. They seem to be getting better every week. I think they're going to go up in that thin air in Denver and come home probably a little cold, but with the victory.
Well, everybody questioned why they brought in Tua, but evidently they had a game plan, and obviously it's looked out pretty well. Hopefully, if you're drinking the Miami Kool-Aid, I would hope that you're reading the Miami Dolphins transcripts that I send you through Twitter, because I give you plenty of information there.
That's where I get all my good stuff from you, my friend.
Well, of course. Come on. I like to share the wealth, man. Share the information.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, I mean, I'm drinking the Dolphins Kool-Aid, and I told you before, I mean, everyone's penciling the Bills in, but don't be so sure just yet. Miami isn't. They're within striking distance, and they're playing really good football right now. This last 7 games of the season, it's going to be really interesting. I think Miami might pull this off.
Let me tell you, I get information from the Detroit Lions. I get it from the Jacksonville Jaguars and Dolphins, and I make sure that I feed you as much as I can. Since you're an NFL writer, you're entitled to get what I've got, and I'm going to make sure I keep sending it your direction. All right. With that said, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders seem to be decimated by all kinds of COVID problems. Every time you turn around, they're either getting fined, losing draft choices,
Yeah.
positive tests. So, and I hear that the Raiders went ahead and took a little bit of a lap around the Arrowhead Stadium after Kansas City's lone loss was to the Raiders at Arrowhead. So you think about it, you have 2 coaches that were on the same coaching staff, and Andy Reid and John Gruden. So this sets up pretty well in Vegas. So are the Chiefs going to avenge their only loss of the year, or do you think the Raiders have their number?
I think it's going to be a good game. I like Kansas City in the rematch this time around. But we'll see. I mean, if the Raiders play like they did the last time, this is it going to be a cakewalk? I know they have some COVID issues, and we'll see how it plays out. But that Chiefs offense is just, they have so many weapons and they're so fast. I thought the Raiders did a very good job that first time around, but it was their offense that really impressed me that game. I don't know whether they can replicate that again.
Well, I'm only going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs for one reason. The Raiders continue to get hammered by COVID cases. Anytime you continue to get hammered by COVID cases, it's one thing to do it, but to get hammered by COVID cases and facing the Kansas City Chiefs, that's double jeopardy. And I do want to send my condolences to Alex Trebek and his family, the host of Jeopardy. It was too bad that he lost the battle with pancreatic cancer. But back to this double jeopardy, folks. Okay, COVID cases, potent offense, and I'll use my echoes of the Jeep theory against the Raiders. So now we're going ahead and divulging my echoes of the Jeep is a theme today. So there you go, Chiefs. I expect you to win in Las Vegas. All right, Monday night, the LA Rams 6-3, Tampa Bay Bucks 7-3. Jared Goff, Tom Brady. Who you got?
You know, the Rams have quietly turned it around. There was a while there this season when they just looked like they weren't the same team anymore, but they're playing much better football. I think this is going to be a close game. I just have the feeling that Tampa's going to pull out a close one. Late score in this one. I'm looking for a 3-yard pass from Brady to his designated red zone target there. So, that big wide receiver who does nothing but catch touchdowns in the red zone. So I'm going with the Bucks in this one. Close.
Yeah, I'll go with Tampa as well. I certainly know they got demolished by the New Orleans Saints on prime time, and the last thing they want to do is get embarrassed on prime time again on Monday night. So I'll definitely go with Tom Brady, but I think this is going to be a very close football game without a doubt. So, but the Rams still have a shot to get in the playoffs. And when we talk about the Rams and we talk about the NFC West, you think that the NFC East is loaded with potential playoff teams because they're all bad. Get this, okay? In the NFC West, you got the Arizona Cardinals, LA Rams, and Seattle Seahawks, all at 6-3. And it's hard to believe that the San Francisco 49ers are 4-6. Then again, maybe it isn't because of all the injury problems that they've had. So, been a really tough year for the 49ers. But 6-3 teams, to me, is pretty interesting nonetheless. All right.
Yeah, that's a tough division.
Yeah, this thing is far from over. Who knows how that division is going to turn out? But the fact that they're all 6-3 at the moment means it's wide open. All right, let's talk about some Thanksgiving games since we won't be doing anything next Wednesday anyhow, the night before Thanksgiving. Well, we can look ahead a little bit.
Well, we're going to be busy. We're going to be giving thanks to having our families around us.
You better believe it. We sure will. That's for sure. I'll be in Metro Detroit, and you'll be in the cold weather. And considering the mandates that I'm not allowed to go to any restaurants, well, it'll be an interesting Thanksgiving nonetheless. My brother was asking me, well, since you're coming up to Thanksgiving, you going to a Lions game? I said, no, not really. It's all family this time around. I'll tell you, the last time I was in Michigan for Thanksgiving, I want to say it was 1999, or actually 2000 is what it was. So it's been almost 20 years since I've been back home in Metro Detroit for Thanksgiving, for sure. So, but obviously, I'm there to see family, and that's my top priority. With that said, the Houston Texans, Romeo Crennel against Matt Patricia, the Bill Belichick coaching tree for two guys that probably won't be sitting in that same sidelines a year from now. Who do you have here with Houston against the Lions?
I like the Lions at home on a short week on Thanksgiving. That's like kind of their tradition. They play every year, it seems like, and they're playing at home. I think after this game, the Texans will be 2-9 because I have them losing this Sunday as well. So I like Detroit in this. I think it'll be a good game. There should be some fireworks in it with Deshaun Watson and Matthew Stafford, but I like the Lions at home.
Yeah, I'll go with the Lions at home as well. They're vulnerable to the deep pass. I think one of the key players, though, for the Lions has got to be DeAndre Swift, the running back, who's really coming into his own and having a pretty good rookie campaign. Detroit needs Kenny Golladay back. They really do. He's a tall target for Matthew Stafford. And like I said, I love Matt Stafford. I think, to me, he's a very talented quarterback and the heart of a Lion playing for a franchise that I think if you go put Matthew Stafford anywhere else, he's got 1 or 2 Super Bowl rings. So,
and they have my guy there, T.J. Hawkinson. So
yeah, right. Well, your other guy, Danny Amendola, I believe.
Danny, yeah, he's hurt right now, right?
Yeah, I believe he is.
Yeah,
but
I like Hawkinson. I think he's going to be the guy I'm pointing to. Going to have a big game on Thursday.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, the Lions have two very winnable football games with the Panthers as well as the Texans. And I think the last time they faced the Texans on Thanksgiving, they lost. So I think they'd like to kind of get even there. Tough year for the Texans and the Lions. Well, I don't know, new ownership and Matt Patricia, and I still find it hard to believe a guy like Patricia, former defensive coordinator, his teams give up so many yards and blow so many leads. Just blows me away. It really
Terrible.
does. All right, let's go to a game which might actually be a meaningful game. Washington against Dallas. Alex Smith had 390 yards in the Lions win. But Alex Smith, to me, is a great story in his own right. And Dallas, I believe, will have Andy Dalton back by then. So I wouldn't know what to expect in this football game.
That's a tough one to call. You have to root for a guy like Alex Smith. I mean, he got replaced in San Francisco, Kansas City. He got replaced. It's like then he gets hurt in Washington. It's like, oh my God, gruesome injury. He comes back. He played really well on Sunday. I was rooting for the Lions because of our friendship there, but at the same time, I was rooting for Alex Smith to have a big day. He's just one of those guys. Yeah, when he's on the field, I know you weren't rooting for him on Sunday, but yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting game. I like Alex Smith. That Dallas defense is.
Yeah, it's awful. Come on.
They're awful right now.
You said
they are terrible. So it'll be interesting to see if Andy Dalton's back and how well he plays. Washington on defense isn't great either. I'm expecting this one to be it's probably be a very entertaining game because I think it's going to be a close one. I look for a high-scoring game. I'm going to give the edge to the Cowboys.
You know what? We're going to disagree on this one. Kind of disagree somewhere. I'm going to go with Washington.
Okay, good.
We'll disagree on this one. I'm pulling for Alex Smith now that the Lions got the win. I don't care. I hope he does well. So
yeah.
And the Cowboys situation, who would have thought they'd be this bad? But I can only hope that Jerry Jones comes to his senses and pays Dak Prescott, especially after what he's had to deal with. Because you got to realize what the Cowboys have missed with Dak. So I'm going to go with the Washington football team. The team that can't come up with their own nickname. I don't know what they're going to have to do to come up with one, but nevertheless, Washington gets a nod.
I hope they go with the Red Tails. I mean, I'm a big World War II history buff, so the Red Tails are the Tuskegee Airmen, and I think that would be a great way to maybe change a little philosophy there in the front office, and they can't go with the Washington football team for long. I mean, that's terrible.
Well, you would think that, right? I mean, I hear the Red Tails is one of the top, and I hear the Sentinels is another one too.
Yeah, the Sentinels, unless they're bringing in, what was his name in the movie?
I don't know.
The movie about the replacements.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they were the Sentinels in that one. Shane Falco.
There you go. Well, at least
if they're bringing in Shane Falco as their quarterback next year, then I go with the Sentinels. Other than that, I like Red Tails. I like Red Wolves too.
I'd like to see him keep the word red in there.
Mm-hmm.
I would. I mean, even though it didn't give me the skins, red something would be all right. And they probably don't have to change their uniform colors either.
No, they said they were going to keep the colors.
Oh, did they? Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, you got to keep some sort of tradition with this dysfunctional franchise.
And they are dysfunctional, aren't they?
Yeah, big time.
Everyone talks about Jerry Jones, but he's like vanilla ice cream compared to what Washington has.
Yeah, Daniel Snyder.
Oh.
Well, but the thing is Jerry Jones with Jimmy Johnson himself has 3 Super Bowl rings. Daniel Snyder has been ridiculed big time. So go figure. I still think that Jimmy Johnson, if Jerry Jones has any sense, should have his name retired in the Ring of Honor. After all, if it weren't for Jimmy, Jerry wouldn't have 3 rings, and Jimmy should have 3. But Barry Switzer should be getting Christmas cards for the one that Johnson got him. But,
Yeah, because that was Jimmy's team that won that Super Bowl.
of course it was. Come on, really? I mean, Barry Switzer got a ring thanks to Jimmy. But you know what? I'm gonna work. I'm with you here. Red Tails, I think, would be a great nickname for that football team. We'll see. And we talked about this before. We're going to talk about it again. Baltimore against Pittsburgh over at the ketchup bottle, Heinz Field. Can't believe there's a stadium named after a ketchup bottle. Heinz.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be some red on the uniforms that night, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it'll be ketchup, though. That's going to be a really good football game. I'm going to go with the Steelers in this one. I know they've already beaten the Ravens once. The Ravens will be looking to turn the tide. I just have the feeling that the Ravens are going to come up short again.
I think so, too. I mean, think about it. If Pittsburgh, next 2 games, this team could be 11-0.
And now the Ravens would like nothing more to go into Heinz Field and knock them out of the undefeated ranks. I think it's going to be a close game. But I think the Steelers are going to pull it out.
I do too.
But I wouldn't be shocked if Baltimore won a close game as well, though.
Well, I'll lean towards the Steelers anyways. I think it's the safest bet right now. I'll tell you, Baltimore loses these next 2 weeks. This team here that was heavily favored to be 6-5 by Thanksgiving, and trust me, that stuffing won't taste very good at all.
Nope.
Yet, when you summarize the Thanksgiving games, 4 of the 6 teams right now have losing records. But then again, we expected Dallas to fare a lot better, for sure. And the Texans, like you alluded to earlier, for this whole dysfunctional mess took place with Bill O'Brien getting rid of one talented player after another.
Yeah, I thought Houston was going to be a really good team this year. I had them pegged to win their division at the start of the season, and obviously couldn't have been more wrong about that one. But
get rid of DeAndre Hopkins, for crying out loud. What do you expect? Everybody can be wrong about that. Don't pin it on you.
Yeah. Well, if you had asked me things that I wouldn't have thought possible, trading Hopkins wouldn't have been one of them this year. And especially for a running back, and I know you and I have talked about that quite a few times on this show, but I still don't get it. I don't get it. And their running game hasn't been that great this year.
Well, you bring in David Johnson and a guy who's, right now his tires have a lot of tread on him. Brandon Cooks, not that great. Average wide receiver, Will Fuller, Kenny Stills. 3 guys that take the place of what one guy really should have done, DeAndre Hopkins.
Well, and the thing with Hopkins is, everyone knew they were going to throw the ball to him. But when Fuller was healthy, along with Hopkins, he was a tremendous number 2. And I just thought, a healthy Fuller with that offense with, Watson and Hopkins made them incredibly tough to stop. So why would you get rid of them? I just, it doesn't make any sense. And then, think about how good that offense would be with Hopkins, Fuller, Stills, and Cooks, because, if one of those guys is your number 4, that's a really good number 4. So
well, the way the NFL's played with the emphasis on the passing game, yeah, they are. So let me ask you a question. Now, you brought up an interesting point. All right. Do you like the old NFL game better than the new NFL game with all this passing?
I grew up with the old NFL game. The grinded out tough. I love to see a beautiful pass down the field and all that, but I think they've gone too far with the rules. Now it's like, you breathe on a receiver and you get the flag, and I think a lot of these wide receivers are as guilty of what they're calling pass interference today as the defensive guys. I mean, they get away with a lot. I've been thinking about it. I prefer that old NFL. I really do. I love those games. I thought that was what made it unique. And, but fans want to see scoring. They want to see the ooh and ah plays, and they want to see, watching the Green Bay sweep go for 4 yards in a pile of dust 15 times in a row isn't as exciting as watching DeAndre Hopkins catch that Hail Mary from Kyle Murray. So,
well, I'm
I
with
get
you.
it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the old NFL game more so than today's version. And I guess a good comparison is I like the old NBA game with all the grinded out, hard nosed defensive play. A few elbows like during the bad boys of the Pistons, and you
Oh, yeah.
know about them when they played Boston, and the way they got to the finals is the way they manhandled the Celtics toward the end when they started going into their dynasty. I think the NFL nowadays is just simply way too soft. I really do. It's hard, to watch it. I will. Obviously, it's part of what we do, so that we have to pay attention to it. But I don't know. I think
And the NFL, I think, is getting a lot like the NBA, where now it used to be guys celebrate after a big touchdown or a great play. Now it's like a guy gets a 5-yard play and he wants to pose for a picture. And,
that's absurd.
yeah,
I
yeah.
struggle with that.
And I can't stand those group photo things that's now the rage. I don't like that stuff.
I can't either.
I'm showing my age. I'm like the old guy on the porch that's telling all the kids to get off the lawn. But, it's like, I just don't like that. Ray Nitschke and Dick Butkus didn't do that back in the day. You know what I mean? That's the guys I grew up watching. And, can you imagine Dick Butkus doing that? I'm going to pose for a picture now.
Well, let me tell you, if you did it in front of Dick Butkus, he'd probably he'd knock you into tomorrow and then some. Barry Sanders, who I watched plenty of, handed the football to the referee and went right to the bench. Come on.
Yeah, he didn't do no celebrated dance or, some choreographed routine with the other guys. And he was the best that I think I always thought Gale Sayers was the best running back. I only saw a very little bit of Jim Brown when I first started watching football. So but of the guys I saw the most of, I always thought Gale Sayers was the best running back I ever saw. I changed my opinion after Barry Sanders. I just think was just incredible to watch. And even when he made my team look foolish on Sunday night one year, I always remember that. It's my favorite Barry Sanders play. It was the play against the Patriots. He made like 9 guys miss, and he made one. I'm trying to remember that guy's name. We talked about it on here a couple of weeks ago. One defensive back, he made him miss 3 times on the one play. And that's still my favorite Barry Sanders. I don't care if it was against the Patriots or not. That was just incredible.
And the thing, I was covering the Lions full time when Barry Sanders was playing. I have you. I got you there, SB.
That's like being the kid in the candy store there.
It sure was. What was so fun about watching Barry Sanders every week? Every time I got a media release, and I kept seeing him climb up the charts on the all-time rushing leaders. It was beautiful, black and white ink, let me tell you.
Growing up, I'm switching sports for a second. It was like when I was watching Bobby Orr play hockey when I was a kid. Because every game, he would do something absolutely incredible. And, that's what it had to have been like watching Barry Sanders every week.
Unbelievable. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. It's like being the kid in the candy store.
Well, it was. And it was some good Lions football back then. It was Barry Sanders good. We had guys like Brett Perriman, Herman Moore. They had a lot of good wide receivers, some pretty good quarterbacks. So I've always said that the biggest mistake the Lions ever made was when Eric Kramer took him to the NFC Championship. Why do you go back to Rodney Pete when you had your quarterback leading in the playoffs? Haven't won a playoff game since. The curse of Eric Kramer. So
yeah. Hey, I remember the year Doug Flutie led the Bills to the playoffs, and then in the playoff game, they go to Rob Johnson.
Yeah, I know. Some of these, Wayne Fonts had that philosophy, well, no quarterback should lose his job due to an injury. Let me tell you what, don't tell that to Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe. That didn't work out, but that's philosophy 101 that we probably won't worry about now, but just thought we'd put it out there for everybody to judge.
Well, interesting thing about that is in the preseason of that 2001 year that Bledsoe got hurt, Belichick was ready to make the move and bench Bledsoe on opening day for Brady.
Really?
But the other coaches talked him out of it because they thought Bledsoe gave him a better chance to win. They didn't think Brady was ready. So when Bledsoe got hurt, Belichick went immediately to Brady, and we all know how that turned out. But it was an interesting subplot to that because Belichick was ready to make the move on week 1, and he was talked out of it.
Well, safe to say it worked out anyways.
I think it worked out for Belichick and Brady. I think things worked out pretty well. So
good stuff. Okay, see, so not only did we give everybody an appetite for this week's key games, we're also able to give everybody a little bit of an early sample for Thanksgiving as well. But that said, as we wrap up the broadcast, okay, Steve, why don't you start off with the COVID message, okay, and then I want you to go ahead and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, I just lost a cousin of mine to COVID last week. So, again, it's no joke out there, folks. I mean, you know, we've been talking offline about how the economy can't take another big shutdown, but at the same time, we have to protect ourselves, protect each other, and look out for one another. And God knows none of us like wearing that mask. I hate wearing it. When I go out, I feel like I'm Jesse James getting ready to rob a stagecoach. But at the same time, you know, if that's what we have to do to get through this, then let's do it. So take care of each other. Take care of yourselves, and let's get through this and get back to somewhat normalcy in 2021. I think 2020 can't be over fast enough at this point. But you can follow me on Twitter at SteveBSFG. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. That's where we met, and you know, I'm always out there. I write for PatsFans.com, covering the Patriots, who have a big game coming up against the Houston Texans. And I also write for SoftRep.com about military affairs and, you know, current affairs of what's going on in the world of the military, not only ours, but worldwide. So I'm always out there. You can always find me on one of those social media sites.
Good stuff. Yeah, you know, it's really interesting. Meeting you on Twitter, to me, was one of the best things that's ever happened because I just enjoy working with you on the air. It's a lot of fun. It really, really is. So,
likewise.
Yeah, so what we're able to do is, I don't know, we'll talk sports one week, veterans, who cares? As long as we're out there and making a difference. And our goal is to make sure that our audience benefits any way they possibly can. So I'm with you all the way. All right, with that said, in terms of following us on social media, here's how you can do it. Twitter at Tribune South. That's at Tribune South. Facebook and Instagram, South Florida Tribune. YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. Please subscribe to that channel. I'll give you 6 reasons why you should. The Sports Exchange, No Limits, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, Real and the Rare, Fantasy Football, South Florida Tribune Podcast. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Have a section on there for Motor City Monitor. Cover a lot of sports up in Metro Detroit as well as around the state of Michigan. We also have our media distribution partners sending us content, as well as our columnists, and most of all, our broadcasts are on there as well on their WSAN drop down. You can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. You can catch up with me on LinkedIn, Scott Morganroth. And if you want to hear the audio version of the broadcast, you can do so at Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So, any closing thoughts, Steve?
Well, this week, I want to wish you safe travels. I know you're going up to see family up in the Detroit area.
Yeah.
Safe travels, my friend. Enjoy time with your family. We all know that, so many times, especially in today's world, those can be fleeting. So take advantage of them while you can. And look forward to when you get back. We'll renew this our show here, and we'll carry on the best we can.
Oh, thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Well, even though we will be off for about a week or two, doesn't mean you're not going to stop hearing from me. I got to pick your brain about all kinds of stuff. So I may be out of sight, but on the air, but I won't be out of mind. You can rest assured. Your phone number was put in the speed dial today, by the way. So
there you go.
There you go. So, Balestrieri, I'm going to be in touch with you anyways, pal. No big deal. So, but meanwhile, glad to do this broadcast with you tonight. We have a lot more work ahead of us for sure. So, on behalf of Steve Balestrieri, my name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. Good night, everybody. God bless and be safe. And salute to all of you.